Welcome back to the deep dive. If you are a learner, someone who just thrives on jumping right into the deep end of the pool to really understand the forces shaping our world well, you are in the exact right place today.
Absolutely, because today we are staring down this really profound tension between two completely different eras of human ambition.
Right. On one side, we have the romanticized, legendary triumph of 1969, and on the other side, the mechanical, grinding, and frankly just agonizing frustrations of modern spaceflight, specifically in the year 2026.
And the source material we are examining today captures that tension in a way that, a textbook or a technical manual never really could.
Yeah.
We're looking at this through a highly artistic, deeply critical lens.
Yeah, we have a stack of notes here based on the lyrics to a song called Artemis.
Right, which is part of a larger concept project. It's titled The Ghost of Saturn, Apollo's Lost Future.
Right. And the mission for this deep dive is to unpack how this specific piece of music uses the incredibly vivid imagery of space exploration to dig into much larger themes. We are talking about uh, severe technological stagnation, cultural nostalgia, and ultimately this creeping, intense skepticism about our own history. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
The track kicks off with a spoken word opening that it stops you in your tracks. A voice simply says, Houston, we have a problem. We've lost the moon.
It is a brilliant subversion. I mean, by changing just the second half of that incredibly famous phrase, the songwriter completely flips the context.
Yeah.
We're no longer dealing with a sudden localized crisis out in the vacuum of space.
Yeah.
The crisis is happening right here on Earth.
It's like a slow burn paralysis.
Exactly. The moon hasn't literally vanished from the sky, of course. What is lost is our cultural capability to reach it. Our connection to that frontier has been totally severed.
It sets this chilling tone right out of the gate. And that leads us straight into the core technological paradox that the song wrestles with.
Yeah, the first verse.
Right. The very first verse hits us with the visceral reality of losing our own past. It laments that we lost the tapes, the plans, and even, quoting here, the dust between our hands.
They aren't just saying we forgot a few equations. They're describing the total evaporation of an entire era of human capability.
But I have to ask, is that actually how technology works? I mean, we always assume progress is a straight line forward.
What's fascinating here is how the song uses that assumption of forward progress to highlight our current failures.
Okay.
The physical loss of those plans and that lunar dust is immediately contrasted with the digital abundance of the modern world. We are surrounded by a million circuits and a billion lines of code.
But we can't build what worked in 69.
Precisely. This mirrors a very real, incredibly frustrating concept in modern engineering called the loss of institutional knowledge.
Meaning it's not just about having the blueprints.
Right. You can have the original schematics for a Saturn V rocket, but those blueprints are functionally useless without the mid-century manufacturing ecosystem that produced them.
Wow, okay.
The thousands of highly specialized machinists, the bespoke tooling, the tacit hands-on knowledge of how to weld a specific alloy, all of that is gone.
So the song contrasts the sheer audacious capability of doing it with a pocket watch.
Against the bloated, paralyzed complexity of the present. The computing power on those 1969 missions was primitive compared to a modern smart fridge, let alone a modern spacecraft.
Right.
Yet, they went to the moon, and we are stuck on the launch pad. The ghost of Apollo is fading away, but the ghost of Saturn, referencing those massive thundering rockets that actually did the heavy lifting, is laughing at us.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate for a second. Is that a completely fair comparison? The song mocks our billion lines of code, but isn't modern spaceflight objectively more complex because our standards are just drastically higher today?
That is a common argument, yeah.
Like, we aren't willing to accept the immense, terrifying risks they took in the 1960s, so we over-engineer everything.
But that is the exact trap the songwriter is pointing out.
Yeah.
Yes, we demand higher safety standards, but that demand has metastasized into a kind of paralyzing risk aversion.
Ah, I see.
The song creates this beautiful, melancholic personification to illustrate this. We hear that the modern experts claim spaceflight is too complex. And as they make these excuses, Apollo fades and Saturn laughs.
That is such a striking image. The ghost of Saturn just looking down at our billions of lines of code and laughing at our inability to get out of our own way.
It really is.
Which brings us out of the theoretical and right onto the modern launch pad. The song sets a very specific, grounded scene for the year 2026.
Right, in Florida.
Yeah, the songwriter places Jared Isaacman, who is basically the poster child for this modern, billionaire-funded era of commercial space right on the Florida sand.
And he is standing there with a grounded rocket and a broken plan. By using Isaacman, the song grounds its critique in the current reality of privatized space exploration. We have shifted from a massive, unified national effort in the Apollo era to a fragmented, billionaire-driven spectacle.
And yet, despite the infinite wealth pouring into these projects, the results are deeply underwhelming.
Underwhelming is putting it mildly.
The song doesn't hold back on the specifics of that disappointment either. It lists these incredibly mundane mechanical failures. We aren't talking about fundamental flaws in orbital mechanics or cutting-edge physics breaking down.
No, we are talking about plumbing.
Exactly. A helium leak, a missing seal, and then it delivers this absolute gut punch of a line about spending $1 billion for valves that won't even close.
That really gets to the heart of the modern aerospace bloat. How does a valve cost $1 billion and still fail?
Right.
It's because of that exact over-engineering and bureaucratic red tape we were just discussing. You have layers upon layers of systems engineering, infinite testing regimes, and software checks that are supposed to guarantee perfection.
But instead of guaranteeing perfection, they just create a million new points of failure.
Exactly. And the song captures this profound physical regression. Instead of a rocket soaring into the heavens, they're rolling it backward to the VAB floor, the vehicle assembly building, just to fix the seals on a hangar door.
It is the ultimate indignity. You have this majestic, supposedly state-of-the-art machine, and it's being rolled backward because the building it's housed in is broken.
It's pathetic, really, when you frame it that way.
The canyon between the rhetoric and the reality here is just staggering. The song points out that you have experts talking about complexity and figures like Isaacman using grand philosophical buzzwords like wisdom and risk.
But none of that grand talk changes the physical reality on the launch pad.
No. The countdown isn't moving. It's stuck at T-minus not tonight.
And being stuck on the ground with modern technology is exactly what breeds the paranoia we see in the next section of the track. When the present is this disappointing, people naturally start looking backward.
Okay, yeah. Let's get into this, because the song goes to a pretty wild place here.
It does.
To be clear to you listening, we aren't throwing on tinfoil hats and endorsing moon landing conspiracies today. We are strictly looking at the text provided in the lyrics, analyzing the claims made within the song itself.
Right, we're just looking at how the artist uses these ideas.
Exactly. But as a piece of art, the song uses this conspiracy angle to make a really poignant point about modern frustration. How does it frame that skepticism?
The song uses skepticism not as a statement of historical fact, but as a psychological reaction to ultimate frustration. The lyrics raise the questions quite explicitly.
Yeah, it says, makes you wonder if the first one was real.
Or if, perhaps, we never left the floor at all. It represents a profound shift in the narrative. We go from lamenting that we lost our way to questioning if we were ever actually there to begin with.
And the way the song builds this argument is entirely based on the contrast with how perfect the past supposedly was.
The flawless narrative.
Yeah. The lyrics specifically bring in the political context of the late 60s. They mention Tricky Dick, Richard Nixon, hanging out in '69, calling the moon from the oval floor, and then turning around and sending 3 more missions just 4 months later.
The songwriter is emphasizing the sheer, almost unbelievable ease with which the historical narrative claims these missions were accomplished. Think about the audacity of that timeline from a modern perspective.
It's crazy.
They did it once, they did it twice, and as the song says, they never had to roll the dice.
Wait, so the perfection of the Apollo era actually becomes the evidence the song uses against it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This raises an important question about how we process history. The song characterizes the 1969 era as a time of flawless, unbroken perfection, 6 times perfect.
Right.
And then you compare that unbelievable streak of past perfection with the reality of being stuck down here in 2026, rolling a rocket backward to fix a hangar door seal. The narrator's brain is essentially short-circuiting, trying to reconcile these two realities.
You know what this reminds me of? It's like having an older sibling who supposedly ran a marathon in record time years ago without even training.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
But now the whole family has personal trainers, high-tech running shoes, and million-dollar diets, and nobody can even jog a mile without collapsing. You wouldn't just be frustrated with your own lack of fitness. You would start staring at that older sibling's trophy on the mantle and thinking, wait a minute, did that actually happen?
That is the exact psychological phenomenon at play here, applied to human history. The gap in capability is so inexplicably wide that the narrator finds it easier to believe the past was a beautifully constructed fabrication than to accept that humanity has regressed so drastically.
Wow.
The song explicitly asks if it was so easy back in Nixon's day, why does Isaac Man just look the other way? The cognitive dissonance is deafening.
And that cognitive dissonance feeds into a much broader, much heavier cultural frustration, which the song masterfully unpacks in its final verses.
Yes, it zooms out.
We zoom out from the launch pad and look at the state of the world in 2026. The songwriter adds a ticking clock to this frustration. The lyrics say, we are grounded while the ice caps melt and the budgets grow.
That wider lens is crucial. It is not just that we are experiencing delays, it's that we are running out of time. The problems on Earth are becoming existential.
Right.
In the 1960s, space was viewed as an infinite frontier, a place of boundless optimism. Now, against the backdrop of melting ice caps and ballooning financial costs, spaceflight can feel either like a massive distraction from earthly crises, or worse, a private escape hatch for the ultra-rich.
And we are pouring more and more of our resources into this, and all we have is a no-go show.
Exactly.
That brings us to what might be the most cynical, heartbreaking line in the entire track. They sold us a future they didn't quite land.
It perfectly encapsulates a generational betrayal. The songwriter brilliantly merges all the disparate elements of the narrative into one long, unbroken continuum of empty promises.
Nixon's shadows, Isaacman's seals.
The missing tapes, the flag on the sand, the billion-dollar valves. They are all treated as two sides of the same coin of disappointment. It all results in humanity just turning the same silver reels.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Turning the same silver reels. That evokes the image of old cinema film projectors, right?
Yes, and it carries a heavy implication. It suggests that our entire modern relationship with space exploration isn't a physical reality we are participating in anymore. It has been reduced to a movie we are just watching over and over again.
Just replaying the greatest hits.
Right. The authorities talk about the wisdom of the past, but the song dismisses it as a repeat of the same old show. The narrator is completely exhausted by the media spectacle of it all. So they say, cue up the camera and dim the lights. We're going to the moon under starry nights.
It's purely performative.
Spaceflight has transitioned from a genuine tactile frontier into pure theater.
I want you listening to really think about that for a second. Have you ever felt that specific type of stalling out in your own life or your own industry, where you are promised all these incredible, groundbreaking advancements, you see the budgets growing, you see the stakes getting higher every single day, but your actual day-to-day reality is just firmly stuck on the ground?
It's a very universal feeling.
It really is. What this deep dive into Artemis highlights is that the specific, literal truth of that 1969 footage almost doesn't matter to the narrator's ultimate despair. Whether you look at the footage burned on those old discs as a genuine, monumental triumph of human will, or whether you look at it with the deep, creeping skepticism presented in these lyrics, the end result in the year 2026 remains exactly the same.
We are grounded.
We are stuck. We are not going anywhere.
And that is the ultimate takeaway from this source material. On the surface, Artemis is a song about rockets, leaky valves, and the space program. But if we synthesize everything we've discussed today, it is really a profound lament for a lost era of human capability.
A completely lost era.
It uses the legendary, almost mythic success of the Apollo missions as a mirror to force us to look at our modern paralysis. We live in an era bogged down by immense complexity, administrative bloat, and endless agonizing delays.
Right.
The psychological weight of contrasting what we used to be able to do with what we are currently failing to do is so heavy that it shatters the narrator's faith in the past entirely. It captures a deep, unsettling sense of cultural and technological stagnation.
It is a remarkable piece of writing. It takes a very specific technical frustration on a launch pad in Florida and transforms it into a mirror for how we view our own history, our own competence, and our own future. So what does this all mean for us today?
It leaves us with a lot to consider.
It certainly does. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We absolutely love taking a stack of notes like this and unpacking the hidden depths with you. Before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, something that builds directly on the imagery we've explored today.
The final lines of the song.
Yes. The song ends with these incredibly evocative, lingering lines. It acknowledges that paradise waits where the stardust glows, but immediately undercuts that hope by pointing out that we are still rewinding those old Apollo shows.
Mm-hmm.
It is a beautiful, tragic image of a society looking backward.
Stuck on replay.
Exactly. So here is the question for you to take with you. If a society becomes so utterly obsessed with rewinding and reliving the perfect footage of its past achievements, does it inevitably lose the ability to actually build the future? Keep that in mind the next time you look up at the moon.